Hello and welcome to SonicLAB. Today we're looking at the brand new Arturia Pigments 3 update. This is the third version of the Softsynth from Arturia, which was kind of their flagship Softsynth. I reviewed it when it came out, and what made it really unique was the fact that it was, rather than one of their emulations, which obviously Arturia are well known for, this is their own synth in their own right. And as such, it had a load of really interesting features. One of the main things is the modulation capabilities across the middle. And it's got this kind of, we could just route. So if I just pick any old parameter and I can actually just dial in these modulations, then I can I'll close that down and I can set up side chains and modifiers. It's a really fast way to get into the nitty-gritty and see what's going on. It's very visual, and I think that was one thing, as well as it sounding great, it was also quite unique in that because it's a very deep synthesizer. It's got wavetable synthesis, it's got analog, virtual analog, it's got sample playback, it's got all kinds of stuff in there, but it meant that even with all of that complexity, it was quite easy to see what was going on. So using this window across the middle, we can see the keyboard, the envelopes, LFOs, functions, combinate, all these other kind of features, and these enable you to kind of create all these really complex modulations. So I'm not going to review the whole thing again. What I'm going to do is try and concentrate on the new things that have come in with version 3. So as such, I guess I should start here. And this is the Harmonic Engine. This is an additive synthesis engine with up to 512 partials. We'll start with that. So just play a note. And almost like filtering, because obviously additive synthesis just brings it down, we can set the kind of shape to give more odd or even harmonics. We've got the ratio to kind of create some very unusual harmonic points. Then we've got morphing between lots of different kinds of sets of harmonics. And of course we can modulate a lot of these things, you know, using the matrix in the same way. There's quite a lot of things that we can change in terms of panning the harmonics, which is really interesting. Creating a kind of window on the... And this is an entirely new kind of, I suppose, engine, or sub-engine, I suppose, because looking at these, we've got the usual two engines, but there's actually, as well as the Harmonic Engine, which we've got here, we've got the analog and the wavetable and the sample, which we are familiar with. We've also got this thing called a utility engine. The utility engine adds types of noise and sort of just texture, which is a really interesting idea. So if I take this sound and I bring my noise in, just switch the noise on. I can pre-filter the noise. I can tune the noise over the whole. Let's switch this back to a bit more of a regular sound. So there's a whole load of different textures here, and this is quite a unique idea. Well, I suppose we've seen it before on, I forget the Softtube model, but there's this idea that you would introduce all of this kind of random noise, and you've got all of these different kinds of noises here, which are really quite interesting. Including just kind of texture, like vinyl noise, and then we've also got these texture transients. So we've got hits that we can add to the front of sounds, which are actually really useful and take you into that kind of almost LA synthesis territory where we can create the transient and then we can have the rest of the body of the sound coming. And don't forget, we've got two of these engines, and we've also got a sort of an extra oscillator, which is sort of basic, but it gives you, well, we could do pulse width. But there's some quite interesting stuff we can get. And we're able to add all this additional sort of coloration and spectral kind of stuff on top of it. And that's actually quite a nice addition, I think, and I like that. As well as this, we've also got, I must consult my list, Yes, I should mention we've also got 64 new wavetable here as well in Pigments 3. All of these guys. Let's open the filter. Turn the utility engine on. Just loads and loads of new wavetables. I think there's 64 new ones, including this 3D visualization. And we can switch morph interpolation on or off for that. So if I switch that on, you can hear the sort of switches between each one. And there's a whole load of brilliant stuff to choose from in here. And this is in addition to what we've already got. So loads more wavetable. While we're at it, I'll just go back to analog just so we can listen to the filter. We've also got these new filter types. In this case, the Jupiter 8 filter type, which comes from the JP8V. And they come in low pass and 12 and let's see, 24. So I guess that means, you know, because of the huge legacy of software that Arturia have got, they can sort of bring in, mix and match different filter types. As you can see, we've got a whole bunch here, you know, the SEM, the Matrix 12, the Mini JP8. JP8's the new one. I think there's, is there another one? No, it's just the JP8. And also got enhanced routing, so we can route the filters between pre-effects to sum and also to split, and then we've got a blend, so we can run parallel filters and then blend between them. So if I open that up, let's turn this one into, well, this is a multi-mode, and maybe make it a band pass with a bit of resonant. And we've got this mode. And these can be split and go into each of the effects engines as well. So we've got quite a lot of flexible routing in terms of how we create some of that. Anyway, enough rambling. I'll probably mention a few more things as I go along, but I'm going to flip through a few patches. I've created some patches. Incidentally, I'll be making these patches available on our Patreon. So if you want to subscribe, you can get access to those patches and perhaps any more that I create for the Pigments. Because one of the things about this synth is, again, you know, you're sitting there and you're just exploring features and you're just throwing ideas at it and making patches all over the place. Okay, so let's take a look at some more patches. As you can see, we've got 1155 presets. I think that kind of includes some of the ones I've made. But we can go to banks and we can take a look at some Pigments 3 specific patches, which will give us a little bit more to go on. I'll just play my keyboard up here. Let's start with 12 bar over sheep. What's that sound like? Interesting. Ah, this shepherd tones, I think. Okay, one thing that's really nice about this is having these kind of engines to show you what each engine is doing. And you've got notes that you could save. So this is using two additive engines, because you can see down here, these are active, and then additive wormhole. Let's see what that's at. That sounds like it might be using one of the new effects as well, because we've also got... Oh no, we haven't, but I will mention it. We've got a new effect, two new effects, Chorus Juno 6 effect and also BL20 Flanger, which add another couple of things to the effects engine, which is actually very complex. We can route things left and right depending on how we're doing things, and via the filter we can decide how that's going to go. Let's take a listen to a couple more sound. If I go to my favourites, what will that do? Yeah, there we go. This one's a nice one. This is a very atmospheric pad. Probably need to bring that up an octave. Let's see if this is using anything specific to version 3. Effects. Doesn't look like it. Let's try this one, Euphoria starter. Something I do like about this synth is its response to velocity feels really natural and kind of very playable. Oh, come back to our patches. Evolution, another atmospheric one. Let's see what that's doing. Yeah, we've got some noise here. You can see it adds a real nice sort of additional texture, just sort of takes it away from the standard synth sound. So if I turn that off, I mean, this has got something in there as well. So we've also got this kind of strange pebbles, but the sum total, just I really like that. Let's see, Fine Time Creative Sound Effect. Oh, this is using a really cool feature that I didn't notice before. The fact that we can set the quantization modulation. We can set, if this little Q button's quite handy, because what it means that we can actually set the notes in the scale relative to the root. So this would be what, that's first, third, fourth, fifth, major, minor seventh, I think maybe, or minor, yeah. We can, so if I, that would be octaves. So we can set these quantizers, and I think that's really nice. In fact, I've got a patch of mine which uses this as well. Let me see, my banks user, now where's it gone? I think it's Big Waves 2, rhythmic sequence I've called it. So this is using the quantize, and I'm just using octaves because I haven't got any of these fixed. So I'm using two functions. I'm using this guy, so if I turn this off, I'm using this little sort of modulated count, then the oscillator in that section as well, then the analog engine. And I'm modulating with another function, which is a kind of much more random, if I take this out, if we go to here, with a much more random set of steps. That's the initial function, which is providing the rhythms. And that one is providing the path, sort of somewhat random path through the morphing wave shape, but also the filters as well. Some really nice stuff there. Let's see if I got, what else did I do here? Oh, got something called Subverb, which shows off one of the new effects. So, so in the effects, as well as, I think I've got these in the aux effects, which is the send effects, there's this new one called PS delay, which is a pitch delay, which if I take the reverb out, it's taking an octave down, and then I'm sending that into reverb, which gives me this kind of, like a almost like a submarine that you get from the what's it called? The Minilog XD. Let's get that on a JP8 filter and see what that sounds like. A bit more meaty. Some really nice, and this is just a simple sawtooth. So I could go 7 semitones up, bring that in a bit. And then add a bit of unison detune. should probably map one of the macros to this. So if I do that and I go, let's have this guy. We'll go drag a knob. Can I do that? I have to do it this way, don't I? So I'll do this and I'm going to add it to a macro, which will give me control. So now I can use one of my macro knobs. And the macros, if I go to some other, maybe some other patches, we can set up a lot of different. Yeah, here we go. This has got a little bit more going on. So these, you can control multiple parameters on these macros, even though there are only 4 of them. But these macro mappings are persistent. Anyway, as usual, I'm getting rather lost in this. I mean, this is one of the things about this synth. It's very easy to sit there and just throw patches. And I must admit, I don't usually gravitate towards soft synths because I find them a little bit impenetrable. I did a review of something similar, you know, a similarly large flagship effects, a flagship synth, which was the Massive X, Native Instruments Massive X, and I found that much harder to kind of get into. There wasn't enough visual feedback and representation of what was going on. The thing about Pigments is you get a lot more visual clues as to what it is that you're doing, and which is really handy just by doing this and, you know, being able to access them very quickly and seeing what's there, switching bits and pieces on and off. It just makes the whole programming process more intuitive. I mean, you know, you're still using mice or mices or mouse or touchpads or whatever, but it feels you're a bit more connected to the synthesis engine with the way that they've done this. And that's something that I think, you know, they haven't blown it with this version 3. They've kept that language and that kind of sitting, you know, maintained that language all the way through these updates, which I think is very important. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. I'll play out with a few more patches, and don't forget, if you want to grab some of the patches I've been making while I've been looking at it, just join our Patreon. It's over here. And additionally, update information is scrolled below. This is the price of the update, and if you check out the Arturia website, you'll be able to see exactly what it is that, you know, if you're upgrading from Pigments 1 or Pigments 2, you should be able to get a pricing for that. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.